Well, it's official. John Harbaugh has finally made the preseason call that everyone's been waiting for, and honestly, it didn't take anyone by surprise. The Baltimore Ravens are going all in on youth for their final preseason game. No Lamar Jackson, no Derrick Henry, no Roquan Smith. The veterans are sitting out, and it's going to be the young guys who take the field against the Commanders. And this wasn't something Harbaugh hid or danced around. He opened his presser with it. Straight up said they're heading to Washington, and it's going to be the young roster hopefuls fighting for jobs, reps, and maybe even roles that extend beyond just making the final cut. And you can already feel the shift, right? This is the moment when preseason starts to fade into the background and the gears start turning toward Buffalo. Regular season prep officially begins. Even Harbaugh said it. It's a little bit of both. There's a group of guys preparing to win jobs, while the vets are already mentally shifting focus to week one. That's how it goes when your stars aren't playing in August. They're thinking about September. So for guys like Lamar and Derrick Henry and Kyle Hamilton, this is just about sharpening the mental edge now. But for the rest, for the guys who still need to prove themselves, this is the last shot. And yet, even though this decision felt obvious, there's a layer to it that deserves more attention. Because the joint practice with Washington, that was supposed to be the controlled battleground where starters got real work in, reps that felt like game action, but without the live fire of a full-on preseason clash. But now, that's off the table. Harbaugh said it came down to logistics. Washington played on Monday night, and the timeline just didn't make sense for them to turn around and have a joint session. That kind of thing matters, especially when you're not playing your starters in actual games. Without joint practices, those guys lose one of their few preseason chances to face another team and shake off the rust. Now, this isn't something new for the Ravens. They've been cautious in August for a while now. Lamar Jackson hasn't taken a preseason snap in what? 3 years? Maybe 4? It's been a long time. And it's worked. The Ravens aren't built to take unnecessary risks with their top players. Just look back at J.K. Dobbins in 2021. One final preseason game, a few reps, and a season-ending injury. That moment changed how this franchise approaches the month of August. They're not the Bengals, who just threw Joe Burrow out there behind a second-string offensive line in a meaningless game. That kind of move can derail a season before it even starts. Baltimore's smarter than that. They've learned the hard way. Still, it brings up the same debate every year. Should starters play in the preseason? Should they at least get a drive or two just to shake off the cobwebs? And I get both sides. You want to stay healthy, but you also don't want to come out flat in week one, especially when your schedule opens with a gauntlet. Baltimore doesn't have the luxury of easing into the season. They're staring down a brutal first 6 weeks, 5 games against division winners, with only Cleveland in week 2 breaking that trend. And even that game, that's going to be something. Joe Flacco is now officially the Browns' starting quarterback. So yeah, that's going to be spicy. The last time Joe stepped on the field at M&T Bank in a non-Ravens jersey, that feels like a lifetime ago. So now the spotlight shifts to these younger guys. Guys like Trenton Simpson, TJ Tampa, Ben Cleveland, and Rasheen Ali. Some of them, like Ollie, are probably already locks for the roster. But Harbaugh made it clear. This final preseason game isn't just about making the 53-man cut. It's about carving out a role. And that's the nuance a lot of people miss. You've got players who know they're safe, but safe doesn't mean set. There are real roles on the table right now. Special teams, sub-packages, rotational depth. That stuff matters, and it's up for grabs. So this game against Washington? It's far from meaningless for a huge chunk of this roster. At the same time, Harbaugh made a point about joint practices that I think really matters. Back in the day, joint practices were week-long slogs. Teams went to war on the practice field for days, sometimes a full week. Now, it's 1 day, maybe 2 if you're lucky. That shift means teams have to be even more intentional about how they use their time. You skip playing starters in games? Fine, but you better maximize those joint sessions. And without that session against Washington, Baltimore's down one of those rare chances. And look, we've seen how things start when the team's not sharp. Last year, the Ravens started 0-2. They managed to climb back and steady the ship, but it's hard to forget how they lost those games. That week 1 loss to the Chiefs was close, and it was full of emotion, the kind of drama that comes with facing the team that sent you packing the year before. And now, they're opening the season in Buffalo. Another playoff ghost. Another chance to exorcise some demons. and the Ravens know what's at stake. You don't win the Super Bowl in Week 1, but you can absolutely set the tone, for better or worse. Roquan Smith even said it, starting fast matters. This schedule doesn't ease up. It's brutal, and Baltimore's margin for error is razor thin. So while it makes sense to bubble wrap the stars, the gamble is always there. What if there's rust? What if the offense looks out of sync? What if the timing's off? You don't get second chances in this league. And the Ravens are betting on their veterans being able to flip the switch when it matters. But what's clear is that Baltimore is laser-focused on depth right now. This last game isn't a throwaway. It's an audition. It's about reps, tape, and sorting out the final few spots. And Harbaugh said it. Even guys who are already on the team are going to play. That's how you build confidence. That's how you prepare them for what's ahead. And I don't hate that at all. This team has rookies and second-year guys who need the reps. Guys who are going to be asked to step up in real situations this season. Getting them live bullets, even in preseason, is valuable. And let's not ignore the injury situation either. Because if there's one thing that can derail a team faster than anything, it's a sudden lack of depth. Jaire Alexander hasn't practiced since August 9th. Harbaugh says it's precautionary, something related to managing his knee, and he doesn't seem worried. But anytime a guy misses this much time, especially a key defensive back, you've got to raise your eyebrows a little. Alexander's history with knee issues is well documented. You don't want to rush that back. And honestly, the Ravens can afford to be patient. They've got Marlon Humphrey. They've got Nate Wiggins. They've got Stoya Woozier, and even TJ Tampa is starting to find his footing. Jaire is a luxury, a very, very good one, but a luxury nonetheless. Same thing goes for DeAndre Hopkins. Veteran guy, managing the knee. Harbaugh says it's nothing serious. But again, when you've got a room full of young receivers, you want your leader out there. You want that continuity with Lamar. So hopefully, he's back sooner than later. But the Ravens are clearly playing the long game with these vets. There are some more concerning updates, though. Emory Jones, the rookie offensive lineman, is probably not going to be ready for the start of the regular season. He had shoulder surgery, and despite hopes he'd be back by mid-training camp, he's still not out there. That's disappointing, because Jones had a legit chance to compete for depth reps on the line, maybe even push for a swing tackle spot. Now, it's up in the air whether he plays at all this season. Harbaugh hinted that it's going to take time, and honestly, it might be one of those IR situations where they just let him recover fully. And then there's Isaac, the second-year defensive lineman who dislocated his elbow against the Cowboys. If it had been a clean dislocation, it would have been a 3-week thing. But there was ligament damage, and now he's having surgery. Not season-ending, but we're probably talking about a mid-season return at best. And that's a blow, because Isaac looked really good in camp. The kind of jump you want to see from a second-year guy. That one stings. But at least there's some good news. Keaton Mitchell is back on the practice field. Harbaugh says he could play against the Commanders and will be good to go for Week 1. That's a big win. Mitchell adds a different dynamic to the backfield, and having him fully healthy heading into Buffalo is huge. So yeah, while this preseason might feel slow, there's a lot happening beneath the surface. Roles are being decided. Depth is being tested. And the Ravens, as always, are trying to balance the tightrope walk between staying healthy and being sharp. It's not easy, but that's the NFL. And as this week winds down and Saturday approaches, all eyes turn to the guys fighting for a shot. One more chance to make an impression. One more chance to earn that phone call, that meeting, that spot on the 53. Or at least the practice squad. And for some of these players, that's everything. Now shifting gears just a bit, let's talk about the injuries, because John Harbaugh dropped a laundry list of updates during his Monday press conference, and some of it was more encouraging than expected, but there were also a few things that raised some eyebrows. Let's start with Jaire Alexander. He's been off the field for over 10 days now, and while Harbaugh insists it's nothing serious, you've got to wonder what's really going on there. According to him, it's a knee issue that's been managed for years, not something that came out of nowhere. But even so, it's been a pretty extended absence, and we know how tricky knees can be for defensive backs, especially those who rely on explosiveness and quick turns. Harbaugh did say it was something the team anticipated, that there was a health-focused treatment involved and the kind of protocol where you have to wait several days afterward before a guy can get back into practice. That all sounds fine in theory, but here's the thing. This isn't just about being healthy by Week 1. It's about getting the necessary reps in now so that you're not playing catch-up later. The secondary is stacked, yes, but Alexander brings a level of veteran IQ and versatility that just helps take things to another level. So if he's not back soon, it starts to impact not just his own readiness, but the chemistry of the entire unit. And look, Harbaugh's injury updates, you know how they are. Sometimes they're clear, and other times they're, well, let's just call them adventurous. There's often this cloud of vagueness, like you're trying to decode a riddle. He'll say it's precautionary, or that it's all good, and then a guy ends up on injured reserve 2 days later. So when he says there's nothing serious going on with Alexander or that he'll be fine, you take that with a grain of salt. Hopefully, he's right, and Jair is truly close to being back. But I'm not the only one starting to raise an eyebrow at the timeline. Fortunately for Baltimore, the depth at cornerback this year is better than it's been in a while. Marlon Humphrey is still the anchor. Nate Wiggins has come in and looked every bit like a high draft pick should. Stoya Wuzier is another name that's done well, especially in the absence of Jair. And let's not forget TJ Tampa, who has quietly put together a strong camp. So the Ravens aren't short on options. But having Alexander healthy adds that one more chess piece, that one more matchup tool that could come in handy when you're going up against elite offenses. DeAndre Hopkins, meanwhile, is in a similar boat. Harbaugh said it's just one of those things, working through some knee soreness. And with veterans, especially at that position, it's not unusual to see guys get scheduled rest days or miss chunks of camp. That's part of managing the wear and tear. But Hopkins is new to the team. He doesn't have years of chemistry with Lamar Jackson to fall back on. So while it's smart to manage his body, you also want to make sure they're building rhythm and timing heading into the season. That connection doesn't just appear magically on game day. Then there's the situation with Emory Jones, and that one stings. A third-round rookie with real potential, a guy who was brought in with hopes of competing for the swing tackle job and possibly even pushing for right guard snaps. And yet, here we are, days away from the end of training camp, and Jones still hasn't stepped on the field. Harbaugh confirmed he won't be ready for the start of the regular season, which is disappointing but not shocking at this point. Shoulder surgery is no joke, and the team is right to prioritize long-term health. But with Baltimore's current depth situation on the offensive line, the timing couldn't be worse. The Ravens are already down veteran utility guys like Patrick Meckery and Josh Jones, and Joe Noteboom didn't exactly inspire confidence during his snaps against Dallas. The offensive line needs to be not just healthy, but consistent early in the year, especially with that brutal opening stretch. So while Emory Jones wasn't expected to start right away, his absence creates a ripple effect in terms of backup plans and contingencies. And we're at the point now where you have to ask, are we even going to see him this season at all? Is it going to be a redshirt year? Does he go on season-ending IR? Or do they try to stash him and activate later? All of that's up in the air. Speaking of IR candidates, let's talk about Isaac, who had quietly been one of the breakout players of camp before suffering that elbow injury against the Cowboys. It turns out there was ligament damage, which means surgery and an extended absence. Harbaugh said that if it had just been a clean dislocation, he would have been back in about 3 weeks. But with the added ligament issues, now we're talking about mid-season at best. That's a brutal break, because Isaac was looking like a real contributor. The game was slowing down for him, the frame looked filled out, and he was making plays. And now? We may not see him until November, maybe later. Then you have Jalen Armour-Davis, who didn't play much against Dallas and had people wondering what was going on. Harbaugh cleared that up, saying it was due to illness, not injury. Good news, because Jalen is another guy who's right there in that mix for a depth spot in the secondary. You want to see as many reps as possible from him before roster cuts. He's got the tools. He's had the flashes. But availability is what really determines opportunity at this point in camp. Another name brought up during Harbaugh's session was Isaiah Likely. When asked whether he'd be ready for Week 1, Harbaugh played it close to the vest. Said he didn't want to give away too much and hinted that we might not know his status until the final roster is announced. That sounds like IR might be on the table. If they stash him there before final cuts, he's done for the season. If they wait and then place him on IR, he can return after 4 weeks. But either way, it doesn't sound like we'll see him early in the year. And honestly, I'd rather they play it safe. Tight end depth is solid, and Likely is too important long-term to risk rushing him back. On the flip side, there's some encouraging news too. Keaton Mitchell, who had fans worried after leaving the last game, was back at practice on Monday. That's a good sign. Harbaugh said after the game that it wasn't serious and even floated the possibility that Mitchell could play against Washington. Whether or not he actually suits up, just having him back on the field is a win. He brings a different gear to the offense, and assuming he's fully healthy, he'll be a factor this season. Now, outside of the injury news, Monday's practice had some really encouraging performances from a few guys on the roster bubble. Bo Braz is one of them. He was flying around all day, picked off Cooper Rush on a pass that was intended for Malik Cunningham. Nearly got another interception later when he crashed down on a short throw. He also broke up a red zone pass. That's the kind of performance that puts your name in the coaches' minds when they sit down in those evaluation meetings. It's not just about making a splash, it's about stacking plays, showing consistency, and proving you can perform in different situations. Braz might have been on the outside looking in last week, but if he keeps this up, he's going to force some tough decisions. Project Washington also turned heads. Chased down Zay Flowers on the sideline, and anyone who can catch up to Zay in the open field deserves some serious credit. He also had a would-be sack on Dion Leary after beating his man quickly. That kind of burst is exactly what Baltimore looks for in their front seven. Guys who can win fast and finish plays. And that's been a theme with this defensive line throughout camp. Travis Jones, Matt Abike, Honest Peels, they're all winning fast. When they get through, they don't just pressure the quarterback, they swallow him up. Lamar Jackson had a pretty nice deep ball to Zay Flowers during team drills. It's not news, but it's always good to see those two connecting. That relationship is going to be massive this season, especially if they're using more spread looks and tempo. And Jamal Banks got a little redemption after his touchdown in the Cowboys game was called back for offensive pass interference. He hauled in a perfect throw from Cooper Rush down the sideline. Those little moments matter for a guy like Banks who's fighting for that last receiver spot. On defense, Malachi Starks had a pass breakup in the red zone. Trenton Simpson forced a fumble after tracking down Charlie Kolar and ripping the ball out. Simpson's had an up-and-down camp, but this was a big play for him, especially since there's growing buzz around rookie linebacker Teddy Buchanan possibly leapfrogging him for the LB2 role next to Roquan. The Ravens don't always hand over big roles to rookies, but when someone's outplaying you, the coaches take notice. Rookie corner Maris Robinson continues to impress. Had tight coverage and a solid pass breakup. Ruben Lowry nearly grabbed another interception. Lowry, man, he just keeps showing up. Wherever the ball is, he's there. And that's how you make a team as an undrafted rookie. You make yourself impossible to ignore. And speaking of undrafted standouts, this rookie class, particularly on defense, looks like a gold mine. From Malachi Starks to Mike Green, from Honest Peels to Jay Higgins, from Lowry to Chandler Martin, the scouting department did serious work this year. And it's not just about raw talent. These guys are smart, they're physical, and they're picking things up fast. You can see the impact already in practice, and you're going to feel it on Sundays. So yeah, the Ravens are banged up. Yeah, some key guys aren't out there. But this is still a deep, loaded roster. And that depth is being forged right now, in these last few practices. In this final preseason game, these moments are defining careers, roles, and possibly the early trajectory of Baltimore's season. It's not always glamorous. It's not always headline stuff. But it's what makes teams great. And if the Ravens can keep building this momentum into Week 1, watch out. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. The NFL world is buzzing with one of the most sensational and jaw-dropping moves of the offseason, as the Baltimore Ravens have reportedly secured Tyreek Hill in a deal that could very well redefine the landscape of offensive football in the league. Rumors swirling around social media and insider reports suggest that the acquisition of Hill, widely regarded as one of the fastest and most dynamic wide receivers in professional football, is set to catapult the Ravens into a tier of elite offenses rarely seen in recent years. Analysts and fans alike are already imagining the implications of pairing Hill's electric speed with the Ravens' already innovative offensive scheme, which has long emphasized mobility, creativity, and explosive playmaking. Hill's presence not only adds a deep threat dimension that can stretch defenses to their limits, but also fundamentally changes how opponents will need to approach Baltimore's attack. Defensive coordinators, who are usually able to rely on conventional schemes to contain fast receivers, might find themselves scrambling to adjust as Hill's unmatched acceleration and game-changing agility allow him to exploit even the smallest gaps. The speculation is that this signing could trigger a domino effect across the league, prompting other teams to reevaluate their own roster compositions and game plans, as the Ravens potentially become the benchmark for speed, innovation, and unpredictability on the offensive side of the ball. The whispers growing louder in NFL circles suggest that this move is more than just a flashy headline. It could represent a seismic shift in the Ravens' identity, transforming them into a team built around unparalleled pace and vertical threat. Tyreek Hill's reputation as the Cheetah isn't merely a nickname, but a testament to his ability to accelerate past defenders with a burst that seems almost unnatural, making him one of the most feared weapons in the league. By joining Baltimore, Hill injects a new layer of strategic complexity into the Ravens' offensive playbook, which has long thrived on a combination of mobile quarterbacks, versatile running backs, and creative formations. Rumors hint at late-night strategy sessions and clandestine meetings where coaches are already drawing up plays designed to exploit Hill's lightning speed, imagining scenarios where the ball is in his hands in space almost every down. This speculative reconfiguration of the offense could allow the Ravens to stretch defenses horizontally and vertically simultaneously, forcing coverage schemes to adapt in real time, creating openings for secondary receivers and running backs as defenders are pulled away by Hill's threat. The excitement in the fan base is palpable, with social media feeds flooded with speculative highlights, imagined touchdown celebrations, and animated debates about how defenses might attempt, and likely fail, to contain one of the fastest humans ever to grace the NFL field. Insiders are buzzing that Hill's arrival could also have a profound impact on quarterback play, particularly in how the Ravens plan to distribute the football in high-pressure situations. Lamar Jackson, known for his electrifying rushing ability and improvisational skill set, suddenly gains an additional dynamic element to exploit in defenses already spread thin by Hill's presence. Rumors indicate that Jackson might now be expected to incorporate even more deep shots, quick screens, and creative misdirection plays into his repertoire, taking full advantage of Hill's unmatched speed and agility. The sheer unpredictability that Hill brings to the table could transform Baltimore into a nightmare matchup for opposing coordinators, who may need to rethink traditional coverage schemes, possibly dedicating extra personnel to limit his impact. However, speculation remains that this very adjustment might create opportunities elsewhere on the field, as Hill draws attention and opens lanes for running backs and slot receivers to thrive in space previously unavailable. NFL analysts are already debating whether this combination of elite athleticism and strategic ingenuity could not only redefine the Ravens' offensive identity, but also influence the league's broader approach to roster construction, potentially ushering in a new era where speed and versatility are prized above traditional positional archetypes. Amid all the hype, whispers suggest that the Ravens' front office executed this acquisition with surgical precision, balancing salary cap considerations while acquiring one of the most coveted talents on the market. Tyreek Hill's contract details remain mostly speculative, but insiders hint at creative structuring that maximizes team flexibility while securing Hill's services for multiple seasons. Rumors abound that this deal involved intense negotiations, private meetings, and possibly even last-minute maneuvers to outbid other teams reportedly in pursuit of Hill's talents. Such behind-the-scenes maneuvering highlights a calculated effort by Baltimore to not only make a splash headline, but to genuinely construct an offense capable of competing at the highest level while remaining sustainable under the NFL's complex financial rules. Conversations among league insiders suggest that Hill's presence could fundamentally alter the Ravens' trajectory for the next several years, making them an instant contender while also raising the stakes for rival teams. Fans are already imagining stadium scenes filled with electric plays, long touchdowns, and a brand of speed that will be difficult for defenses to match. As the rumor mill churns, speculation continues to mount over how coaches will optimize formations, matchups, and personnel packages, ensuring Hill's blazing pace is leveraged effectively while simultaneously developing a coherent offensive identity that can dominate opponents week after week. Finally, the broader implications of this rumored signing are reverberating far beyond Baltimore, as NFL commentators and fans alike speculate on the potential arms race in speed and explosiveness that might follow. Tyreek Hill joining the Ravens could inspire other franchises to chase similar game-breaking talents, accelerating a shift toward high-tempo, vertically threatening offenses across the league. Rumors circulating in football circles suggest that team executives are already taking notes, evaluating the merits of building rosters around players who can create instantaneous separation and force defenses into reactive positions. The excitement is compounded by the fact that Hill's skill set is nearly unmatched, combining elite top-end speed, agility, and football intelligence, making him not just a threat in isolation but a catalyst for the entire offense. Speculation abounds over how defensive schemes might evolve, whether teams will prioritize speed over size, or if training regimens will adapt to counteract this new breed of playmaker. As fans and pundits continue to debate every nuance of this rumored acquisition, one thing remains clear. If the deal is confirmed, the Ravens could very well claim the title of the fastest, most electrifying offense in NFL history, changing the narrative not only for the team, but for the league itself, inspiring a wave of innovation and speed-centric strategies that may define football for years to come. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.